Shankaram Shankaracharyam Vyasam Narayanatmakam Saraswatim cha Brahmanam Pranamami Punah Punah. So in the morning we were explaining what is the substratum of the shell silver and the concepts of Parinama and Vivarta. If the shell silver which occurs, which has for its cause Tula Vidya, which is present in the consciousness conditioned by the object, then one must have the cognition Chaitanyam Rajatam and not consciousness is silver and not this is silver. And we were explaining how the Nayayikas put the question and how the Advaitins answer all those. Now, we have come to the conclusion that although the consciousness conditioned by the object is the substratum of shell silver, yet we have the cognition this is silver. That part we have answered. Now, extending this line of argument, the Advaitins, the argument of the indeterminable creation of silver, the Advaitins explain that the dream perception also is apparently real and has Tula Vidya or modal ignorance as its cause. Now, the dream world, one has the cognition, the Mimamsa school objects that there need not be any indeterminable creation of the dream objects in the dream world. On the other hand, one can maintain that there is merely the recollection of the objects in dream. Supposing one has the cognition, I am traveling in a chariot, then because you have earlier traveled, because all cases of erroneous cognitions are preceded by experience. So whatever you see in dream has to be necessarily, it has to be experienced earlier. You cannot dream of something of which you have not had experience. So the very fact that you are having a dream as though you are traveling in a chariot means that you have earlier traveled in a chariot. So one can maintain the view that there is merely recollection of the dream objects in the dream world, dream state. So smriti matra abhyupagame. Why should we unnecessarily admit the indeterminable creation of objects in the dream state? But the Advaitins are of the view that in the case of dream perception, if one has to admit, when one comes back to the waking state, there is the recollection of the form Swapne Ratam Aham Adraksham. I saw chariot in my dream. So there is recollection in the form I saw chariot in my dream, and if this recollection should hold good, one must have the cognition I see the chariot in the dream state. So since recollection always is preceded by experience, when one comes back to the waking state, I saw the chariot in my dream. So there is the experience of the chariot in the dream state. So this cannot be done away with mere recollection, because in the state of dream, one must have had the experience of chariot. Otherwise, we cannot account for the recollection in the state of waking as I saw the chariot in dream. And again, as we have explained yesterday, in order to account for the immediate perceptual knowledge of the object, we must accept the presence of the object. So if one has to have the cognition, Swapne Ratam Aham Adraksham, I saw the chariot in my dream, in the waking state, can very well be accounted for only if you have had the experience of chariot in the dream. So if one has to have the cognition, I see chariot in the dream, I see the chariot in the dream state, then there must have been the presence of chariot in the dream, which cannot otherwise be accounted for without the indeterminable creation of the chariot in the dream state. So the Advaitins conclude, just as we have the indeterminable creation of shell silver, erroneous cognition in the waking state, so also the dream perception, objects of dream perception have to be admitted as indeterminably created at the time of dream perception. So when one comes back to the waking state, all these, there is the sublation or bada of dream perception. Now the question that remains is, just as in the case of shell silver, we were able to say an adhisthana or substratal principle for shell silver, what is the adhisthana for dream perception? What serves as the substratal principle of dream perception? Because you see the chariot running on the road. So I see the chariot means what exactly is the substratal principle for chariot? The Advaitins say the chariot, and you are sitting on the chariot, traveling on the chariot, and the road, everything, and you are seeing the chariot. All these are superimposed upon the pure consciousness. Now, only one question remains here. There is the shell silver appearance comes to an end. Shell silver, we have explained that they are apparently real. Now, this apparently real objects get sublated by knowledge other than the knowledge of Brahman. Because when we mistake a piece of shell for silver, we do not continue to have that erroneous cognition. It comes to an end or it gets sublated. When do you have the sublation of shell silver? When you have the knowledge of the true nature of shell, then shell silver appearance vanishes. So, if one has to have the knowledge of the true nature of the substratum, in the case of the dream perception, if we are to admit that the pure consciousness is the substratum of the dream objects, one has to admit the fact that without the knowledge of the substratum, that is the pure consciousness, the dream objects will never be sublated. Even after one comes back to the waking state, the dream objects would continue to exist. In other words, if I have had a dream yesterday that I have already finished taking Vedanta Paribhasa class, so in continuation of what I have dreamt yesterday of having finished perception, now I will proceed with inference, I have to say. Whereas this dream perception is a private experience, and not only that, it cannot, it comes to a sublation, it comes to an end. There is sublation for the dream state. Whatever you have perceived in your dream state comes to an end when once you come back to the waking state. So the pertinent question that is put to the Advaitin is, if one has to have the sublation or bada of the dream objects of dream perception, then one must necessarily have the knowledge of the true nature of substratum, that is pure consciousness. But knowledge of pure consciousness cannot be had unless and otherwise Maya or Mula Vidya is destroyed. So in which case, the dream objects would continue to exist. We must continue to perceive the dream world. So in order to overcome this difficulty, the Advaitins make a distinction of the effects getting destroyed in two ways. That is, Karya Vinasha, the destruction of Karya or the effects take place in two ways. One is called Bhada or sublation, and the other is Nivritti. Now take the case of shell silver. In the case of shell silver, one mistakes shell to be silver, and when one arrives at the knowledge of the true nature of the shell, silver appearance vanishes, and you have the notion, this is not silver, this is only shell. Iyam Shuktireva. Now here we have already explained that Tula Vidya transforms into shell silver. Now this is a case when you have the knowledge of the true nature of the substratum, that is the object conditioned consciousness, which is shell. If you have the knowledge, this is shell, that means the Tula Vidya or that aspect of Tula Vidya, the concealing phase of Tula Vidya, which concealed the specific aspect of shell, namely shellless, and also the revealing phase of Tula Vidya, which gave rise to the cognition of shell silver. Both these get destroyed. So the Tula Vidya is totally destroyed by the knowledge of the true nature of the substratum. This is shell. So what happens is there is no shell silver, there is no appearance of shell silver because you have already arrived at the knowledge of the true nature of the substratum. So this is a case where there is total sublation of the object that manifested. And where could there be total sublation? Where there is the destruction of the effect. What is the effect in the present case? Shell silver. Along with its cause, namely Tula Vidya. There is no Tula Vidya which could continue to give rise to the cognition of shell silver. Along with its cause, the shell silver gets destroyed. So, where the effect is totally destroyed along with its cause, upadanasaha karyanashaha, where the appearance of shell silver gets destroyed along with its cause. Why? How could it take place? Because of the knowledge of the true nature of the substratum. Then such a kind of karya vinasha is termed bada. Now there is one more instance. Supposing there is the appearance of, I will take the example of rope serpent, which will be easier for me to explain for the case of nivritti. You perceive rope snake. Now there is Tula Vidya, rope conditioned consciousness. Now what happens is, because of the defect in the sense organ or dim light, whatever it may be, you perceive rope as snake. Sometimes it may happen that you may not have the knowledge that it is a rope, but you may think, when you go nearer, you may think that it is a streak of water, or there is what do you call, the earth has broken open. So in this way, the snake appearance may vanish, yet the Tula Vidya may continue to give rise to some other cognition. So here is a case where the Upadana Karana, namely the Tula Vidya, would continue to exist, giving rise to some other notion. Now, although the snake appearance vanishes, yet the Tula Vidya, which is the cause of snake appearance, continues to give rise to some other cognition. Why? Why do you have such a cognition? Because there is no Tattva Sakshatkara. You have not arrived at the knowledge of the true nature of the substratum, because you have not realized that it is a rope. So, the Tula Vidya or the cause continues to exist, giving rise to the notion of something else, if not as a rope, but as something else. So, this is a case where the cause continues to exist while the effect does not get destroyed. While the effect gets destroyed, snake appearance vanishes, but the cause which gave rise to the snake appearance continues to exist, giving rise to the notion of something else. So this is technically known as nivritti. Now, the Advaitins account for the erroneous cognition of objects by admitting what is known as modal ignorance or Tula Vidya, which is a derivative of Mula Vidya. Now, in the case of all the erroneous cognitions of cognition of objects, the Tula Vidya would get destroyed, and by the knowledge of the true nature of the substratum, and there is the destruction of effect called Bada. Supposing there is one view in Advaita which maintains that Mula Vidya is the cause of all kinds of erroneous cognitions also. They don't admit Tula Vidya or modal ignorance as the cause of erroneous cognitions. In which case, one can never explain Bhada, because if Mula Vidya or the primal ignorance were to give rise to the notion of shell silver, rope snake, whatever be the erroneous cognition in your life throughout, all these erroneous cognitions would continue to remain till there is the removal of Tula Vidya. Because if the cause continues to exist, even when the effect gets destroyed, if the cause continues to exist, then what happens is there is no question of bhada or sublation, there is only nivritti. And when can nivritti take place? Nivritti can be had when there is a contrary mental state. So, if we are to maintain that even for erroneous cognitions, it is the primal nescience that is the cause, then we cannot speak of bhada at all till there arises, not only in this birth or in the birth to come, till there arises the knowledge of Brahman, which is the locus of Mula Vidya. Along with Mula Vidya, if it should get destroyed, there has to be the knowledge of Brahman. So, till such time, all the erroneous cognitions will remain in a latent form in Mula Vidya. So, that is why the Advaitins make the process simple by admitting Tula Vidya or modal ignorance as the cause of erroneous cognitions. So, but there are two views. One view maintaining Mula Vidya or primal nations to be the cause of erroneous cognitions. Another view maintaining Tula Vidya as the cause of erroneous cognitions. In which case, this view will be even more simpler than admitting Mula Vidya as the cause. But in this view also, admitting Tula Vidya as the cause, we have two kinds of destruction of effect. One is Bhada and the other is Nivritti. So this much I wanted to explain to conclude that particular portion. And there is one more segment is there where I will just make a mention of it and I will stop. That is also it involves much of logic, but even then it is worth mentioning and worth knowing also. You have the knowledge of shell silver as this is silver. So at the time it is perceived as silver, say at 11:10 you are perceiving it as silver, this is silver. And till 11:15 you have the cognition, this is silver. At 11:16 you have the cognition, this is shell, this is not silver. Is it clear? Now, the opponent raises an objection. At the time when it was perceived as silver from 11:10 to 11:15, there has existed silver there. Isn't it? So, Pratibhasa Kale, Rajatam Tatra Rajatasya Banam Asit. There was silver. Silver existed there at least during this 5 minutes. It is only at the 11:16th moment you have the cognition, this is shell and this is not silver. Now, the language, the structure of the language is such that in Sanskrit, if I say idam na rajatam, when the negative particle nany, na means na conveys the sense of absence or opposite of something. So, when the negative particle nany, it has got the force or it has got the capacity to convey the absence of something to which it is prefixed, the absence of that object in the 3 divisions of time, past, present and future. Supposing I say there is no pot on the floor, there is absence of pot on the floor, means there is absence of pot because it is the nature of nun, the negative particle nun is such that it will convey the sense of absence in the three divisions of time, past, present, and future. So if the sublating cognition takes the form idam na rajatam, this is not silver, then it conveys the sense of, or it conveys the absence of silver in the three divisions of time, past, present, and future. This is how it has to mean. Whereas the Purva that is the opponent Nayayika questions, you cannot have this verbal usage, because at any rate you have perceived the silver to be present there from 11:10 to 11:15. It has existed there. So the result of this argument is the Nayayikas force the Advaitins to say, don't say that the cognition takes the form idam narajatam, idanim narajatam you have to say. Idanim narajatam means, idanim means now. So the sublating cognition should take the form not as idam narajatam, but idanim narajatam means now it is not silver, which implies that silver existed earlier. So that will be sensible to say idanim narajatam and not as idam narajatam. But the Advaitins, as I told you, he is also a trained logician. So he will not go back on what he has said earlier. My professor used to say about the Nayayikas, there is no question of the Nayayikas. Suppose the Nayayikas have stitched a hat. If the hat doesn't fit into your head, there is no question of altering the hat, but chiseling the head. You see, you have to chisel your head in order to fit the hat. So that is how the Advaitins have been trained. So he will maintain with idam narajatam, but he will try to give a convincing answer to the Nayayika. So idam narajatam, then he says, the sublating cognition will take the form idam narajatam only, but I will specify what kind of silver is being negated. Now in the sublating cognition, this is shell, this is not silver. I do agree, because it is I who have stated that there has been indeterminable creation of silver at 11:10. Now when I negate the same silver, it is not reasonable to negate that silver which has existed there. So when I negate the silver, I do not negate the apparently real silver. On the other hand, I negate it as the silver which is not empirically real. When I say that it is not silver, I say that it is not empirically real, which implies that there has existed a silver which is not empirically real. So there has existed silver which may not be empirically real. So you can come to the conclusion that it is apparently real. So idam na rajatam, I will maintain the sublating cognition as idam na rajatam. At the same time, also say that this nun it does not convey the total absence of silver. On the other hand, silver in its aspect of empirical reality, that is negated there. Is it clear? And then the argument goes on and on. There is so much of logic involved there, and there is what is called as Vedikarana Dharmavachina Bhava, all Nayayika terminologies come. But the point that is of importance is the Advaitins, they want to maintain that the sublating cognition is only of the form idam na rajatam and not as idanim na rajatam. I think with that the Pratyaksha Pariccheda comes to an end. So I have tried to give an overview or a bird's eye view of Vedanta Paribhasa. I don't know how far I was justified in teaching the text proper, because line by line we could not read the text because of constraints of time. Anyway, I had so much of pleasure in speaking to you, and as I was telling Professor, this is the first time I am exposed to such a kind of audience who are all seekers of knowledge and who are committed to study. So I feel that I must have more and more opportunities to interact with such kind of students. And I pray God, Lord Shankara, to give me such opportunities. And I also express my grateful thanks to Professor Balasubramaniam for being here and bless me by his presence.